You can start the show.
Oh,
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to have a discussion about the topic of the movie Hidden Figures, that it's cited in 1961, and it's about mathematician Catherine and also an engineer Mary and Dorothy.
well, let's start. How significant is the racial segregation in this novel? Like, for example, for me, it demonstrates how it was the separation in between the whites and the colored people, and also they were not just discriminated by their color, but also because of their gender, and it was a big separation, you know. Like, for example, they had a bathroom in which only colored persons could go in, and they couldn't go in the white people bathroom. What do you think about it?
Well, I think that topic is the most important topic in this movie. And even though it was decreasing back in those days, the movie shows us how like the big impact that the segregation had in those days.
Well, I think the segregation was the main thing, and the plot turned around the segregation, because it was because of that they had a lot of problems and obstacles to get over them, and it's basically it's the most difficult part for them to solve their problems.
I think that this problem was even bigger in the city they were, because it was in the southern states of USA, which are the most racial ones. And so it was a very big problem back in those days, and lots of people were segregated, and they had a lot of problems.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, I think it's very important how the movie represents the true significance that segregation and discrimination had back in those days. It's really important to show that really women and, well, not only women, but people in general, minorities were segregated only by being that a minority. It was not only women, but black people, by their religion, even if they were Jews or something like that. I would like to ask you, how significant is Mary, the first woman that is an engineer, for the movie?
I think she plays a very important role in the movie because she also, more than just doing what she does in the movie and that, she demonstrates that women could do whatever they want to. They set their own goals and they do it, even though they have discrimination in race and in the gender. She demonstrated that the intelligence has not barriers, and that you can do what you want, even if you have many obstacles in your way.
Well, from my point of view, Mary showed us that we can do whatever we want, even though people are telling us that we can't do it. And back in those days, well, obviously she couldn't study what she wanted, but well, even though she tried and tried until she achieved her goal.
Like in the beginning of the movie, Mary got encouraged by his supervisor to apply to the NASA engineering position. Even she wasn't not like the best qualified, but she applied for it, and that's like what we take of her.
There's a very important point in the movie, which she's in the court speaking to a judge, and she tells the judge that which case is going to matter 100 years later, and that's the thing that made her to win the case and to be able to go to the university.
Yeah, it really is a big step for women empowerment all over the world, because it really represents a first very big step in order to achieve different and bigger goals each day for women, so they could be part of that society of that times in the early 60s. And I would like to ask you, Patty, if you have another question to ask to the discussion.
Well, yeah, I want to know that your opinion about Catherine. She is the main character. So, what do you think about her?
In the movie, like she was considered like a human computer because she could do like a lot of calculus. And also in one scene of the movie, there seems like the men are like having trouble doing some calculus, and then she just go to the board and starts writing and writing and writing. And there she demonstrates how intelligent he is, and no, she is, and what she could do.
Like Catherine, I think it was like the leader of the three girls, but she was the most like oppressed by the head engineer Paul Stafford, and she was like very like pushed back every time she achieved something. And I think the thing that we have from her is like resilience, just keep pushing for your achievements.
She's a very good example to follow, not just because of the good math she did, but because of she was in charge of a family, as she had no husband, and then he met a guy in the movie, but she was like very important to her family, and I think that's very important. And I like that about her.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, she's very important to the story because she represents a new perspective from women empowerment, because she had to overcome different challenges from all over her life to success in that time. Not only she was in charge of that part of the math, but she needed to do every calculation that was needed in order to get the best projections in the flight to the moon in the Apollo 11. That's very impressive.
Well, talking about the three main characters, some people thought that those characters are the victims. So, well, I consider that in the movie, the segregation it's not as stronger as it was back then. But, well, it's a beautiful movie that represents the woman empowerment instead of, well, of course, segregation is a very important topic although in that movie. But from my point of view, I think the woman empowerment is one of the main topics above the segregation.
I agree with you, Patty, because I also think it represents the woman empowerment because they cross all gender and race and professional lines, and their desire to like work was like bigger than all the obstacles they had, and they were known also as American heroes for what they did.
Also, in the movie represents very good the racial segregation, because in the 1960s and 70s, racial segregation was like very strong. I know it was strong, like very hard. It was not that the movie showed everything, but the black people were mostly like they were like more aggressively like
Rejected?
rejected by society, and I think the movie lacked a little bit of like that hardness. I don't know.
I have another question for you, man. Like, you think that this movie shows the woman empowerment? Like, for example, that maybe we as women see it because we have like the history, but how do you see it? Do you think it does represent the woman empowerment?
Well, that's a very good question and tricky, Majo, because yes, it shows in a very effective way the woman empowerment. Because nowadays, if we are just seeing this movie as science fiction, but back in the days, that was everyday life for most women. They had to struggle many challenges all over their lives. They weren't respected as another human being. They were treated as less. And the movie really represents that part of our society that is always trying to make minorities less. But what about you, Chava? What do you think?
I think that if NASA back in the early 60s would have used like the best people, like the smartest people in the USA, it wouldn't have been just one woman in their team. It would have been more women. So I think that NASA could have used back in the day some smarter women and the men they had.
I would like to ask a question to you, girls. How do you compare the things the woman did back then versus the thing the woman do these days to empower women?
Like referring of
Like, for example,
manifestations
yeah.
and that. I think that many women defending their rights are not doing it correct because they just don't want like equality. They want to be like kind of superior to men, and I don't think the way it's like the way to look for their rights. I don't think they're doing it in the right way because, for example, in the movie they show how important they are by doing their work and working so they can demonstrate they could have like the same rights and all that men have. And not just doing manifestations. For example, just in the movie, I don't know all the context back in the days, but in the movie they demonstrate different things that we are seeing like now.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But
Well, nowadays we are looking for equality, but some women understand that we need to be above the man. But I think that's wrong because everyone is the same. Everyone needs the same rights. But we're still fighting for having those rights. In some countries, women don't have like any rights. So I think it's the same context as the movie because we're still fighting for those rights.
Now I have a question for everybody here. Like in this movie, one of the most iconic scenes is when the General Chief Al Harrison breaks like the white only signal in the bathroom so that her employee could go there and just like have equal rights. What do you think about that scene? How does it represent all this segregation and discrimination in the movie?
Well, as I said, this movie represents little big steps in not only for women empowerment, but also to change our perspective as society against segregation, racism, discrimination, because it shows by getting and giving little details about history, well, in specific in the United States, but how people and minorities were treated. And I think that's the main goal of the movie, to really show us how we have changed over the years and really help us get a retro perspective about what are we doing wrong or right, and what are our benefits nowadays.
Yes, also little details like when Catherine were working and taking her coffee in the cup, and all the white workers stared at her like, because why are you drinking more coffee? And at the end, it was the little details, like for example the bathroom sign and when they allowed her to drink coffee from their cups. I think they started all with little details to let them get segregation, like lower rates.
I think that scene is very important because it breaks like the line in between the colored and the not colored people. Maybe it was just only in that place, like in the NASA, where they were working. But as you said, it's like a step by step. They started there, and maybe then it started to break the lines in between the restaurants or any other places that were like divided.
Well, once the director broke down the sign, I think everyone in the at the NASA start changing their own mind, because if you see the director or the chief breaking down the sign of the black or white people in the bathrooms, I think you start changing your mind, because well the leader is doing that. So I think it's a very important like influence on everyone.
That's very interesting. And to finish, I would like to ask you all: would you recommend others to read this novel? Yes, no, and why not?
I will definitely recommend this movie, not only because woman empowerment or segregation. I think the examples that the three women give us is to fight for what you want, even though the atmosphere, you have to achieve your own goals.
I will also recommend it because it also shows like the history and how did it change, did the society changed, and how some things are still happening. Like not for example, here's not the difference between the colored and the not colored, but in other countries we like it is also like the lack of rights the women have, like for example in other parts, maybe not here, but we can see it.
Yeah, I would totally recommend it. Not just because of how far we have come in this like racial matter, but of how far we still have to go, like to have equal rights between women and between like all races, like African American people in the USA, or just women like in Asia or places that women do not have the same rights. So yes, I think this movie makes a good job showing how far we have come and how far we are still like to go.
And also apart from like segregation and women empowerment, what they show in the movie is like achieving personal goals. Like for example, Dorothy with the IBM computer, or Catherine with the calculations, and even Mary with the permission to go to university. I think that's like really important also to achieve your personal goals.
Well, like in conclusion, we see that the most important topics of this movie are like the gender equality and the racial segregation. So, in my opinion, it is very, very important to see this movie because it, as they all said, it teaches to set your own goals and accomplish them. And also that intelligent and hard work will not depend in gender or color, and you can do what you want.
I would like to thank you all for being part of this discussion, and that will be all. Thank you.